Light and peace, peace and light, brothers and sisters. Welcome to the OahspeCollegeUniversity College University solution to yesterday's ancient knowledge. Topic of discussion today is branches of Israel. In my last video, in some of my previous video, I had explained using the OahspeC that the um, Israelites that left the country or the location of Egypt during the ancient time when Moses had took over 4 million Israelites out of Egypt. I had expounded and explained using uh, the map and logical explanation that they had dwell in the southern part of Africa, and during that time, this video raised a lot of questions concerning where um, some argue that they went to West Africa. Some people say they went to East Africa, North Africa. There was a lot of arguments. Today's video is to show the branches of Israel using the OahspeC, because what happened is that OahspeC also recorded where all these people went to without sugar coating. Now, I'm going to go to the, so today's video, just to be clear, is just branches of Israel, which means that when these Israelites finally dwell in the southern part of Africa, what could have happened? So I'll do a breakdown of the verses showing this, and then based on this, I'll move to the next slide. So in the book of Extra, chapter 10, verse 8 to 10, verse 8, regarding the fetish of Western Arabia, who are for the most part call themselves Israelites. You see that? Suffice it to say that the two branches still remain: those who lived under the oral law and those who lived under the written law. The later were called Leviticans. You see that? So those who follow the written law were called the Levites or Leviticans. So I want you to listen to this carefully. That is, hangers on of imperfect flesh and spirit. Verse 9, the Leviticans were not scrupulous regarding war and the preservation of their seed, and in consequences of their sins, they brought great shame upon the faiths in general. And the Leviticans examples were evil, and they gained in numbers faster than the Oralites. So OahspeC here is saying that there was two divisions of Israelites: the Oralites who follow the oral law, and then the Leviticans who follow the written law. So here you have a two branch of Israelites here, okay? The Levitians worship the Great Spirit under the names Lord and God. Verse 10. As for the Oralites, so-called because their doctrine, you see that? That's the difference in verse 10. So verse 9 is giving you the summaries of who the Levites are. And while verse 10 is telling you that the another branch of Israelites who call themselves Oralites, um, they because their doctrine and teaching were secret and only spoken, being taught orally, man to man and woman to man, they were non-resistant. So that means they don't go to war. So yeah, that's your true Israelite. Verse 9. So and they own nothing, giving all things to the rabbi for the public good. Their practice was love and harmony, doing righteously in all things, trusting in Jehovah, and that's the Creator, whom they worship under the name Elohai. All the prophets, you see, this is very critical. All the prophets and seers were born of the Oralites. So what OahspeC in the book of Extra chapter 10 verse 8 to 10 is telling you there are two branches of Israelite: the written law, who call themselves the Levites, and then there was the Oralite. So I am just giving you a summary of what the branches of Israel in this video today is, because there's a big tussle of argument right now in the community where the Hebrew Israelites are maintaining that they're Israelites. But in this video, I'm going to decode and explain that, you cannot really call yourself an Israelite, really, because we got scattered. The Israelite got scattered. They were scattered, in which I'll show in this video. And now to go to the book of, so we're clear in verse 10. There was a new branch of Israelites who called themselves Oralites. Okay, so there's a mixture of things going on here, but the Leviticans also proclaim themselves to be Levitans. But later on, you see in another verse where there was a Jew, a branch of people called themselves Jews. Anyway, the book of Exodus, chapter 11, verse 11. Here's the interesting stuff. Look, listen to this, right? The book of Exodus, chapter 11, verse 11. Yes, I will also send my legions of among Israelites. Yes, Astaroth, a goddess now, who was tussling and battling with Baal for locality, okay? Inspire them that I, Astaroth, I am the true Lord. See, she not even telling them she's a goddess now. She's a female. She's telling them she's the true Lord and true God. She's telling the Israelite that. And here's what amazed me about what she did. Because Baal God gained control of the Israelite already. So the God of the Israelite was already Baal. Now, Astaroth here being jealous, right? Now wanting to get a portion of the piece, wanting to get a piece of the meal, because she needs some souls in heaven. This is a power tussle between the gods. She did not even identify herself as a goddess of Israelite. She identified herself as the God, the Lord God of heaven and earth to the Israelite. And now look at what she did. I will divide them up like a broken bundle of straw and cast them to the four winds of heaven. So yeah, verse 11 is telling you she created a war and then now cast them, because doing war is logical sense. A lot of people they're gonna take their bags. If they don't even remember if they have a luggage, they're gonna split. Where did they split to? They went wherever they could go. They went to West Africa, they went to North Africa, they went to Portugal, they went to Spain, they went to America, they went anywhere they could go. They traveled all. Look, if I was an Israelite back then when Astaroth was fighting with the Israelite and Israelite, because what you got to understand in the book of Exodus chapter 11, verse 11 here is that there was two tussle between two Israelites. The Israelites who worship Baal, and then the Israelite who worship Astaroth. This is the keynote here. This is the secret. So they're battling among each other. No, I worship the Lord God. And then the other one said, no, I worship Baal. So there's a power tussle here. So in this verse 11, people that didn't want to do the battle for Astaroth or Baal, they're going to take their bag and they're going to travel. And they're going to go through the boat, through the ship, whatever it is. Or they're going to go through the camel. They're going to travel with their horses now. So we're talking about a power tussle here. So they left. So they got scattered. Clearly, Astaroth scattered them. Baal scattered the Israelite too. It was a power tussle. Now I'm going to go to the book of Exodus chapter 50, verse 27 to 33. Now, but the book of Exodus chapter 50, now you're going all the way down now, where you're getting toward to the end of the book of Exodus. Because in chapter 51, 52, talking about how the Christian God, the Muslim God, the Buddha God, the Hindu God were battling each other for locality now. Okay? But at the end of so I'm going to talk about the book of Exodus chapter 50 for a minute, because I'm driving a point. Because for those of you Israelites and you Christian Jews or brothers and sisters who claim to be Israelite, I want you to listen to this verse. The book of Exodus chapter 50 verse 27 to 33. Now in reference to the Feities in Chinyanya, that will be China, and Vinju will be India. They were no longer identified with the kingdom of government, but lived among the scattered families. Here's where I'm going. In Arabinia, which is Africa, LX would be what you want to call Europe or Asia. Europe would be LX and Europia would be, Europia would be Europe and LX would be equivalent of Asia. They were scattered in all directions. You see that? So Oahspe is telling in this verse 27, all the faiths are scattered all over anyway. And then listen to this. From the time of Joshua's death, that will be equivalent to what people ignorantly call Jesus or Yashaya or Yeshua, Yahya, Yeshua, whatever people call it. from the time of Joshua's death in Jerusalem, they began to migrate mostly toward the west. So OAPSI is decoding here that they started migrating. People started living wherever. People kept on going wherever they want to go to. So it's just not like they did not focus strictly into. So they got scattered. That's what this is really telling you. And say mostly toward west. So if you're to look at it, that means they really went to West Africa, which is the truth. But they also got scattered there. Cause remember, there was war. Okay, verse 28, and these call themselves Israelites and Jew. There's a split there. So the Israelites also left, they migrated, and then the Jews left. Okay, now verse 29, listen to this. Nevertheless, many of these Israelites and Jews, so-called, were apostate, in fact, eating flesh and marrying with other people. You see? So OAPSI is telling you that even OAPSI is telling you here that it got to the point where the Jews or some Israelites, they started eating flesh, and we know that the true Israelites do not eat flesh. Okay, and then they're very peculiar. They don't want to marry with another people because they need to preserve the seed of the Creator. Okay, now in verse 30, verse 29 is clear now. So they started marrying each other. Verse 30 gives you the conclusion of what happened when they started marrying each other, because a lot of Israel and Hebrew Israel want to talk about, but that's not the real Jew. Oh, look at verse 30. Now, after the fall of the great empire Egypt, how people migrated westward, hundreds of thousands of them, and they settled in western Ethiopia. So for you Hebrew Israelites, OAPSI is telling you the Israelites and the Jews, they went western Ethiopia. That's outside of the continent of Africa too. Okay? But this is clear. Where these peoples married with the Aborians, their offsprings were called Druids. Pigs. Girls. Whales. Gals. Johans, of which are Egyptians then preserved to the day. Verse 31. Now, when the Pharisees were moved by the inspiration of God to have no more kings, they flee away from the Christian warriors. You see that? So the Christians were fighting with them. They came among the people among above mentioned. So OAPSI is saying here, in between verse 31 and verse 30, that there was a mixture. People started marrying each other. So they came among the people above mentioned. The apostate faiths married with them, and their offerings were the forefathers of those now called French. German. Russian. English. So, brothers and sisters, the Hebrew Israelites cannot come now and say that the outsiders or the people outside of Africa are not your brothers and sisters, because OAPSI just decode here that they got scattered all over the world. So now, they start marrying each other. Now they call themselves French. They call themselves German. So you got Israelites who are German. You got Israelites who are French. You got Israelites who are Russians. And you got Israelites who are English. Verse 32. God, Son of Jehovah, had said, allow the apostates to marry. So from there, that descendants that will find a way. See the wisdom of the God that reports to Jehovah, to the Creator. This is God who reports to Jehovah now. He says, allow the apostates to marry. So from their descendants, I will find a way to raise up these believers in the false Christian, the false Christ now, right? And they shall ultimately become believers in Jehovah only. Verse 33. For because I have allowed them to become scattered. You see that? So will I appropriate them to them a seed to quicken all the races of men to comprehend the all one. This is wonderful and juicy. So for you Hebrew Israelites, I have an official statement from you based on the book of Exodus chapter 50. You could go on your own and read this. The Israelites, the Jews, got scattered. So the Hebrew Israelites, the Jews, the Israelites in Germany, French, whatever country they went to, when they left, keep in mind some people in Africa, in certain part of Africa, migrated. If they didn't like the condition they were facing in southern part of Africa, in West Africa, they migrated. For example, I was originally from Nigeria. I'm a Nigerian. I currently live in United States. What am I calling myself? What am I? I'm still Nigerian in a way. So I still maintain that, that name, Nigerian, that nationality. Okay? This is basic logical sense. Okay? You don't need five senses. You don't need the third eye to understand the book of Exodus, chapter 50. I encourage you, if you've not read this, though there's an interesting thing about this where verse verse 31 says, now when the faiths were moved by the inspiration of God to have no more kings, to flee away from the Christians, warriors. This is interesting. They came among the people above mentioned. So they came above the offsprings of Druids, pigs, girls, whales, Welsh, Gauls, Johans. This is interesting, of which are Egyptian names preserved to this day. And this is interesting. This is very juicy. They came among the people above mentioned, the apostate faiths, okay, married with them, and their offspring were the forefathers of those now called French, German, Russians, and English. Brothers and sisters, these are our brothers and sisters now. There's no way we can go around this now, okay? OahspeC just decoded. OahspeC is a Scottish sword. OahspeC is telling us without sugarcoating that our brothers and sisters exist in Europe today, in Asia today, in India, in China, in Japan, in Portugal, in Spain, wherever you want to call it, in United States, in New Mexico, in Argentina. We have brothers and sisters there now. And verse 33 tells you why this was happened, so that they can quicken all the races of men to comprehend the Creator. This is juicy. And finally, in the basic extra Bible, verse 44, in the year 2574 before Casman, the kingdom of Israel perished. Oh, and they become a scattered people, fell into bondage again. Verse 47, I'm fast forwarding. You can go read the basic extra Bible on the OahspeC on your own. The faithless proper were small minority and scattered in many lands. The rest, who were called Jews, lived under the written laws and ceremony, which are compiled and established by the extra in Jerusalem, which combination of book was called the Bible and was completed in the year 2344 before Casman. The year Casman will be 1844. I'll give you a timeline of this in a minute. This is very juicy. Verse 53, I'm fast forwarding. You can go read the extra Bible in the OahspeC yourself. 40 years after Joshua's death. So we're talking about Jesus, Yeshua, whatever everybody want to call it, a false god, Luaman, with, this is juicy, a false god. That's the Christian God now. That's the Christian God. That is the Christ right there, Luaman, with millions of angels emissary, obsess the inhabitant of all those countries. And plunge them into war and anarchy. And verse 54, the faiths were scattered to the four ends of the earth. So when you combine the basic extra Bible with the book of Extra chapter 50 from 27 to 33, it makes logical sense. So here we have it. Baal scattered, the god Baal scattered the Israelites, scattered the faiths, and then you got the Astaroth, who pretended to be a male god, who happens to be a female goddess, scattered the Israelite and the faiths all over the world. And then to make it more juicy, the same God who gave extra the Bible, okay, the same God that gave Ezra the Tanakh, the King James Bible, also scattered, right here, verse 53, 40 years after Joshua's death, 40 years after Jesus' death, a false God, Luomong, which happens to be the Christian God, with his million angels emissaries, obsessed the inhabitant of all those countries and plunged them into war and anarchy. The faiths were all scattered. So here you have it. So what did we learn here? So just to summarize, so the branches of Israel started from two tribes, Zel and Ezer, and they called themselves Israelite. From Israelite, we had what they call the Levites, who you call Leviticans. And then the Israelite also have the Assyrians. You got Assyrians came from where you call Joshua or Jesus, whatever you want to call it. And then also you got the Oralites. And then you also have some Israelites who maintain the order of Jews. They call themselves Jews. The apostate Jews. You see that? So you got the Leviticans, which is called the Levites. You got the Israelites, and some Israelites call themselves Assyrians, and some Israelites call themselves Oralites, and some Oralites, you got some other branches. Now you got the Israelites. Also, they got the branch who call themselves Jews. So when you look at this in total, you got the Christian God, the Christ, who scattered the Israelites also. You got Astaroth, who was battling with Baal, who also scattered. Okay? And then Baal also did his handiwork too. In conclusion, we cannot say. So in conclusion, let me put it this way. The book of Extra and the basic Extra Bible fall under the circle of Ban. That's the 24th act circle, which went for 3,400 years, starting from 1553 BCE all the way down to current modern world, 1848, right? And that was a period of 3,400 years, which was the Akaban. So in conclusion, the Israelites are all over the world, not just in Africa today, okay?